Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. When I was much younger, let's say a boy and a very young adult, I was very idealistic. I'm still am, but unfortunately reality prevents me from being like that too much. Why? Because I realized what kind of things could be implemented and achieved and what kind of things cannot. I kind of know certain limits. How? Well, by knowledge, paying attention, memorizing things and observing, just observing and using your intelligence if you have any. So, I've seen too much not to understand that this world is not the way they tell us it is. Rule-based society and international law-led global understanding of happy international community and all that BS. How and why do I say that? It's because you just have to look at the big countries who do whatever they want with impunity and they're not punished. But little countries are destroyed in the process and hey, nothing to see here, forget about it. Well, you and I do not forget about it, but we learn. We can't do much about it, but we learn. We learn, hey, look at that, look at that, look at that. That's a pattern and you realize that that's the whole thing that these guys are telling us, that country is sovereign. Well, that country is sovereign too, so we can invade it, right? All this kind of hypocritical double standards is enough to provide us with reality. And it's not because those guys are necessarily bad. It's because we are human. They are human. So that's what we do. You say no? Look at our past. Look at our civilizations, past civilizations. They reached a point and then they all collapsed. They reached a point, all collapsed. What is that? There's all kind of theories. Is the one with, I don't know, the cycle of civilizations. I think it has 8 or 9 points, and so on. But that's a good start. The main point is like this. We, humans, have a limitation. And when we reach that limitation in the society that we created, then it goes down. We can't cross that limitation. And we keep going because of the limitations and our flaws. We keep going. And when we keep going, then we fall. That's the next step. And we didn't learn it. Look at Rome. Rome is a great example what's coming up here. When a society becomes more and more perverted and kinkier, let's put it this way, it's going to be blown up. And then it raises what? Autocrats. And not only autocrats, but tyrants. Allows the tyrants to come and save us. So just look at that. Again, remember, it's called a cycle of civilization. Look into it. Just as a basic, information. Now, what happened here? We know that, yesterday Macron made some very dangerous statements. I made a video on that yesterday where he said that maybe we should grant Russia, security guarantees. Something that Russia wanted a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when they asked the Americans and everybody else in the West, the ones with decision-making power, to come and sign a document that would allow Russia to have, legal bound guarantees, international, blah, blah, blah. The Americans did not want to hear about it, did not even answer Lavrov's calls, and the Russians issued a formal legal document to the Secretary of State of the United States regarding that with the points. Hey, let's talk about this. What was the Secretary of State's answer? In December, this was the answer. That was it. So, and then we say, well, crazy Russians invaded a sovereign state, with no reason and, how they call it, unprovoked and all that. Okay, yeah, right. History starts not when you want, buddy. It starts when you go back and you get information that's relevant to the case. In this case, NATO, Russia, Ukraine, Europe, and you're going to want to find out the usual suspect over there. So, Macron made the claim yesterday, well, we need to do this. And I knew that there will be some weasels that want to jump off their freaking thrones and say, hey, no, you can't do that. Well, that's exactly what the Russians wanted before the war, and now all of a sudden you say, Macron, that you spoke with Biden and you agreed that that's a possibility to provide Russia something they asked before the war? How come it's possible now, but it was not possible then? Was it necessary for Ukraine to be blown up and people to die and all that? Yeah, it seems like, I can't say it, but it looks like at least. So let's say what happens, who are the people now that jump at Macron's throat to slit it because he said such a sacrilegious, how do you call it, statement. He made one. So this article comes from Reuters and is from December 4th, 2022. Ukraine and the Baltic states, you always have these little hyenas, or more like coyotes, or how do you call them, jackals, that's what they are. Rebuke Macron for suggesting security guarantees for Russia. Well, here you go. French President Emmanuel Macron's suggestion the West should consider Russia's need for security guarantees if Moscow agrees to talks to end the war in Ukraine unleashed a storm. Ooh, that's why I closed the windows, because a storm was coming in. A storm, all right. Yeah, how many? Poland and 3 countries that their population is 5 million people. Yeah, that's a storm right there. And then you have another 2 weasels, like, unfortunately to say, some leaders in Finland and so on. So anyway, Macron agrees to talks to end the war in Ukraine unleashed a storm of criticism in Kiev and its Baltic allies over the weekend. See that? We're gonna solve it right now. There you have it. That's how you work against God's will. Anyway, I know I'm going down there, so I can be as bad as I want. All right. In an interview with French TV station TF1, Macron said Europe's needs to prepare its future security architecture and also think, and I'm quoting, how to give guarantees to Russia the day it returns to the negotiating table. Period. End quote. Now, Macron is an intelligent guy, not because I agree with what he just said. He's an intelligent and very witty diplomat, and he's very balanced. That means what? I give you this, I take this. That's in diplomacy, and you discuss certain things at the right time and the right things with the right people. So he is the most diplomatic guy that I know from the collective West's rubble. So Ukrainian President Zelensky, top aide, Mikhailo Podolyak, he's below 86 IQ, just so you know, warning, said that it is the world that needs security guarantees from Russia, not the other way around. Remember, I told you about the cycle of civilization at our level. Imagine that you are standing in front of Podolyak, and Podolyak argues with you like this. Well, is the world not Russia? Okay, how did we get here? Podolyak, smack. Podolyak, smack. Good. How did we get here? You invaded our country. Why? Because you're bad people. That's basically this guy's argument. Civilized world. Again, you deal with a guy who is below 86 IQ. Probably he's like 13, 12 years old in his little brain. He talks about civilized world. Who's civilized world? The Western countries? Was invading Iraq a civilized act? Was killing Gaddafi a civilized act? Was bombarding Yugoslavia a civilized act? That's why you talk with children. And this child is what? It's a top aide. All right, so he must be very influential. Now, Alexei Danilov, another weasel. The secretary of this is why is a little bit more dangerous, right? I think. Because he made some statements that are kind of borderline criminal. And again, he is just filled with rage. He should be, to a certain extent, but it doesn't mean that you should be an idiot. Like, you could be angry, but at least logical and intelligent. But that's my assessment, sorry. So Danilov, the Secretary of Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council, said a denuclearized and demilitarized Russia would be the best guarantee of peace not only for Ukraine but also for the world. Someone wants to provide security guarantees to a terrorist and killer state? Again, Danilov argues with pathos but not with logos. That means terrorist state, civilized world, that was the other one. We're the good ones, they're the bad ones. Take their weapons and we're gonna have peace and prosperity. Yeah, why do you think North Korea doesn't give up its weapons? Because in the second that they do that, they will be fucked. What do you mean? Your boss, Podolyak and Danilov, will take over. All right? So they will be your bosses in Russia, exactly what they want. But you're, if you know these things and you say what you say, that makes you a pig. All right? If you don't know these things and you say it, that makes you, below 86 IQ. I think saying things through ignorance and lack of intelligence is more, how should I put it, forgiving than saying it, knowing. The difference between misinformation and disinformation is in disinformation, you say something that you know it's not true. Misinformation, you just say something that you don't know that it's not true. So anyway, and then we have instead of Nuremberg, there you have it. Images, Nuremberg. To sign an agreement with Russia and shake hands? No, that's what he said. Yeah, he says, we want Nuremberg. Hey, Danilov, if you read something about Nuremberg, you shouldn't be that proud of the Nuremberg. Even the victorious countries should not feel proud of how they conducted Nuremberg trials. And if you just have something in your brain, just read about it and see what the defense was allowed to do and what the prosecutors were allowed to do. For instance, just as a basic. And then it's another principle over there, Mr. Danilov. You can't invent and charge someone with a crime that did not exist when the crime was as a legal code. You know what I mean? You can't invent, I'm going to charge you for something that was not a crime before. But that's another principle. There's 2 or 3 things that were like, oh my God. Anyway, what do you expect? And again, the trials in Nuremberg to prosecute Nazi war criminals after World War II are seen today as the forerunners of tribunals like the International Criminal Court in Hague. That's why don't go to Hague. If there are the foundation like that one, read about it. And then we have the U.S. Secretary for Political Affairs, Victoria Nuland, a Jewish woman who was responsible or part of the 2014 little coup. If you remember her phone call with the ambassador, the American ambassador to Ukraine, they were deciding who they were gonna accept and will accept or not accept as being the new leaders of Ukraine. So she has no credibility, but she still rides higher than she was in 2014, right now. And she visited her kosher brother, Zelensky, Yermak, Reznikov, and Zhmihal. All of them are kosher. They hug together and they're friends. Such a coincidence, for 5 kosher people in a room instead of having, 5 Romanians. Why don't we have that? You don't say Romanians are dumb, because then you're generalizing. Just because one is, you know what I mean? Then you can't generalize. It's just a coincidence. They're good at it. Hey, you can't say that because we all are good at everything. It's not that you have. We're not gonna go there anyway. So she says, Miss Nuland said, Putin's insistence on recognizing of the declared annexations indicated he was not serious about peace talks. No, it doesn't indicate that, but her brain, she knows who she's talking to. A population that would say, yeah, that's exactly what it proves. Diplomacy is obviously everyone's objective. No, it's not that obvious, my babe. But you have to have a willing partner. Okay, that's true. Did you talk to Biden? No. Or the Pentagon? No. She told reporters after meeting Zelensky in Kiev on the weekend. And she said, and it's very clear. No, it's not very clear. You don't make the rules here. You don't decide what's clear and what's not clear. I also have the power to decide what's clear and not clear based on the evidence that you provide. It's very clear that Putin is not sincere or ready for that. Really? I thought that Ukraine has a mandate, a little decree signed by your fellow kosher guy that no one should talk to Putin. So I don't know who's the one who doesn't want to talk. Putin? He never said he's not going to talk. So, hey, why don't you talk with your Zmihal buddy? And then we have a lot of guys here that are former Finnish Prime Minister Alexander Stubb, that he fundamentally disagreed with Macron. Well, it's okay. What's next? That's why one of the reasons why we got where we are in Ukraine is failing to recognize other countries' security concerns. Everyone has security concerns, but the ones we want to fuck up. You know, usually, I mean, that's the way it goes. Israel has security concerns, which it does. Well, can hit in self-defense any country around it, sovereign country, because it has security concerns. But Russia cannot have. Finland has security concerns. Sweden has security concerns. Turkey has security concerns. Russia? No, somehow Russia cannot have. United States has security concerns. Imagine that you have, I don't know, 3 dogs, 3 airplanes and a missile launcher in Cuba, let's say, or Nicaragua. Do you think that United States will not say something about it? Oh my God, you're going to have a mini stroke. Zzz. You know what I mean? Why? Security concerns. And you talk about these guys. Come on. And then we have some other idiots here who say the same thing, because we have a lawmaker again. And then we have the Latvia and Lithuania, Lithuania's former foreign minister. These guys were the guys that, has security guarantees as long as it does not attack, annex, or occupy its neighbors. Well, you have to deal with these people, but if you put the shoe in the other foot, they will be like, no. About invasion and all that. Who came to Russia's doorstep? NATO. You say, well, it can. Okay, shouldn't the Russians be concerned? No. Why? Because we're the good guys. All right, now if the argument goes like that, that's why our civilizations go and go and go. Remember, all these are and were at one point leaders of our countries. Right? So they are people with power. And you wonder why civilizations go with this kind of logic and ability to not think. How do you think our civilization is going to end up? Anyway, I'm not saying that Macron is perfect whatsoever, but I think he's right about that one. But then begs the question, how come that is possible now after 10 months or 11 months of war and destruction, but was not possible last year? You know, because they didn't want. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.